Everybody, it's Ted Drummo, and it's Tuesdays with Ted. And we have a very special guest, somebody I've known for more than years than I want to mention. That's been actually 20 years ago. I met Doreen when I was doing speaking circles, and she's been a huge influence on my life for all 20 years. So, welcome, Doreen.
Well, thank you, Ted. You've been a huge influence on my life since I started thinking, gee, I need to get out of my office, being a psychologist just one-on-one. How do I do this online? And you've been my mentor for, well, I guess 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, and you're one that takes action. That's what I love, watching you just build your email list, do LinkedIn, you do live events, you do podcasts now.
Yes, I do. Find your voice, change your life. And I hear lots of stories about people who suffered and didn't have a voice. And that's my passion, is helping people be more of who they can be, but not in a performance or a way in which they are putting on a show or making themselves look better. It's about being authentic and connected to who you truly are. And so my approach is so different than most public speaking trainings.
Yeah, you don't teach people to go on stage and where to stand and what gestures to use. You're more just be authentic and deep connections.
Deep connections. I like that word, deep, always. Yeah, I think that what you just said about standing on a stage and putting on a performance and prancing around, the people that I work with are people that do hold themselves back from maybe getting on that stage, but they also hold themselves back from raising their hand in a group meeting and sharing their opinion. So there are all sorts of stages, you might say, in life.
Yeah, the whole group thing was really resonated with me because I'd sit in meetings, in the company meetings, and the extroverts were all spewing their ideas, thinking out loud. And I'd sit there just kind of processing. And then by the time it was my turn to say, that conversation was over. I missed my opportunity. So you taught
Yeah.
me how to step in there and
Mhm.
get my voice heard.
Yeah, and there has to be a way to find your voice and what that means. There's most most training programs say just be yourself, right? Just be yourself. But I think what I provide people with is a path to discover more of themselves. You have to go through all the doubts and the insecurities, but underneath all of that is your brilliance, your magnificence, and how to tap into that is what I work with.
So with your journey, when did you went through this yourself, right? You were very shy and quiet.
Yes, yes, yes. I have early stories, but I'll just say one briefly. As my mother had depression, and at 5 years old, I lived with my grandma, and she said, "Shh, be quiet. Your mom's going to go back to the hospital. Don't make any noise." So I think that was an early kind of learning about how to be in this world and not show my bright, energetic self because, ooh, something's going to happen. People are going to go away. So that's something, the idea about because I'm a psychologist, I get to the roots of anxiety and help people tap into those moments when, like with my grandma, I realized, oh, that's what held me back. And how do I now let that, talk to that little girl? Maybe that's one of the processes I have is inner child work and say, oh boy, you've always had your inner strength in there. You just hid it for a while. Now you could come out.
Right. And you have the 7 secrets, right? You call them 7 secrets?
Yeah, the reason why, well, so the journey to find my voice started when I was invited to speak at a conference because as I'd done some research and they wanted me to present it. And I said, oh, no, not me. I'm afraid of speaking in public. And that was the time when I was confronted. I mean, I already had my PhD and had a private practice, and yet I was still hiding. And this is what I want to reach people who feel like they are in the professional arena, but they still are hiding the fact that they have fear. And that's what my story is. And so I went to San Francisco, the Learning Annex, many years ago, and took my first class on overcoming your fear of public speaking. That was terrifying, but we have to take that first step towards fear.
Right. So was that more like a Toastmasters kind of event, or speaking circles is a whole different approach to this?
Yeah, I did do Toastmasters. That was part of my process, and I learned how to do vocal variety, and I learned so many wonderful techniques. I was part of Toastmasters for about 7 years, got awards, but believe it or not, hey Ted, I did not reach that real deep core where I was still not free to speak from my essence, you might say, and that's why my programs are called Essential Speaking, finding the essence of who you are. I was still performing. And so that in terms of those 7 secrets you talked about, I did go deeper. I said, all right, so what does it take? What does it take to be fully connected? Ooh, I'm taking a deep breath right now to myself. And my first secret that I discovered was about stillness, learning how to go through all of that mind chatter, how to go through the racing heart and the tension and the throat constricting, how
Mm-hmm.
to do that. And that would be one takeaway for the listeners today is learning how you have to train yourself. It's like reprogramming, training yourself to calm your body, clear your mind, and to drop down into a core that's inside of you. So you asked me to come up with a couple of takeaways, and one I was thinking about offering today is progressive relaxation. Do you know what that is?
No, tell me more.
Progressive relaxation is, I guess it's progressive because you take each part of your body and you tense it, tense it, tense it, and then you let go.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does to your brain starts recognizing when tension starts to take hold. And then you pair it. You pair it with a calming technique as opposed to, ooh, there's tension. Oh my gosh, I got to get out of here. Or you get scared of the anxiety. Instead, the anxiety becomes a signal for you to do this new thing that you've begun to pair with it called relaxation. And I could say right now to people who might be listening, and even to myself and to you, Ted, relax your eyes. That is the quickest way. Oh, my voice even dropped down.
Yeah.
That's the quickest way to relax because it's close to your brain, it's close to your neck, and your shoulders drop. And it's an automatic, instant relaxation technique to soften your eyes.
Yeah, I could really feel that when I just did that. Didn't even have to close my eyes. It was just,
That's right.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So what else? It's like, yeah, we get that stress and we have that anxiety. And you kind of sounds like you embrace that anxiety instead of being afraid of it.
I think you put your finger right on it right then, is how to face it, embrace it. And there's somebody that has written a book about that, and his title is Face, Embrace, and Replace, and that's Billy Atwood. Atwell is his name, actually, and
Mm-hmm.
he does Unshakable Confidence. But the whole idea of, yeah, that's what I did that first day in San Francisco. I said, I have to face my fear. That's, if anything that I can do, first step is find a place, but it has to be a safe place. And that's why I love doing what I do in terms of my 12-week coaching programs. I invite people into an inner journey to discover their voice. And it's I'm safe. Hello.
Yeah.
I'm a safe person. You know that.
Yeah.
And but you need safety in order to face your greatest fears, and that's what I help people do, guide them through their fear so that underneath they tap into the essence, which is where their true source of strength is.
Right. That's why I like your approach, because I've been through some where they actually, you do your speech and then they tell you what you did wrong
Mhm.
instead of embracing what you did right.
Yes, and the Mike Robbins also is somebody that I've worked with that has written books, and his one of his books is focus on the good stuff. And I think that we hear that if we tell people what they're doing wrong, then they can correct it. But looking at what people are already doing right, and maybe what might already be hidden inside of them that they don't know, to reflect back. Oh my goodness, you've got such vibrant energy. Or yesterday in my group coaching class, somebody claimed the essence and she said, I'm radiant. So everywhere she goes, the John Cabot Zen thing of wherever you go, there you are. She can speak from a sense of being radiant. And I know that that's not techniquey, and that might not make sense to people, but that's where you have to find the strength within first.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all within you. You help people bring it out.
Yeah, it's an inside job, not an not an
I like
outside
that.
need. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like an image of a car, polishing the car right now, but if the engine's not working.
Right. So is this a problem extroverts have too, or introverts, or both? I'm an
Oh,
introvert, and it's like I think, oh gosh, I can't say anything. I don't want anybody to hear me.
well, part of the reason I chose psychology probably is because I'm an introvert, and all I had to do was sit in my office with one person at a time. Yeah, but you know what? Somewhere along the line, I realized, but there more, there's more I could do. How do I do that? Well, I need a voice, and that I have to get over my fear, and I have to learn how to do that. And as I said, I did quite a few. I went through a lot of different trainings, but I think what I discovered, this inner work, this inner process, and these secrets that I've talked about. The first one I said was stillness, and the second one is presence. Being so fully in the here, in the now.
Mhm.
And I've also got a takeaway for people around that whenever you want me to offer that one.
Yeah, definitely. Keep going. This is
Okay,
great.
the tip here. So we talked about softening the eyes and progressive relaxation, but the tip here is called spotlighting. So what happens is that people have had a negative experience in the past, and that's part of what I do when I work with roots, is that I help people identify in their past, whether it was a family or a teacher or being bullied or a trauma, something happened where it went, they held themselves back, almost like held their breath.
Yeah.
um, then the whole next step of learning how to be present is, well, you notice that you're going into the future and you're projecting that, oh, it's going to happen again. So you're taking the past, you're putting it into the future, and you're affecting your present. Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
So spotlighting is a way to immediately find something. In fact, I'll just look at my microphone in front of me. I'm putting my eyes only on this microphone. I'm looking at the shine, I'm looking at the pattern, I'm looking at the colors. It's gray and it's black, and oh, there's a little bit of white, looks like white. Whew.
Hmm.
And then I'm totally here. And then I come back and it's like the whole memory is gone and the whole future worry is gone because I've landed in the now. And if I'm softening my eyes,
Yeah.
and I'm taking my breath, of course, breath is the number one, but I don't think I need to tell people that because that's pretty common. But I like to go, my breath, I like to take down, which helps me land in the essence, into my warm spirit and my inner strength.
Hmm. Yeah. Judy just commented. She says, "Love how both of you are gentle and centered. I feel the cozy and safe when you speak." And I feel it too. Yeah. You're really good at just drawing me in. You got other speakers that are, extroverted and they're very loud and animated. You're the opposite, and I feel for me it's more powerful.
Well, yes, you're putting your finger on another important point here, Ted, is that that is not my style. And that's what Toastmasters, what I tried to do in Toastmasters was to be what's called a dynamic speaker.
Yeah.
And, just more pushing yourself out. And the words are important, and what words you use, and the pauses, the dramatic pauses, and all the performance techniques. But when I realized, and somebody gave me feedback, that I am magnetic, that's where my power is. And I think what you just said and what Judy said is that I draw people into me. And you asked a second ago, which I didn't quite answer, extroverts and introverts. I work with both, and they both have histories. People have histories, no matter if they're an introvert or an extrovert, where their voice was either uh, shadowed over by an older sibling or a critical parent, or introverts, I would say, have much more ability to be comfortable speaking their truth, but they have to have environments where they feel safe to do that.
Yeah, the safe environment's huge.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And Michelle has a question. If you want a question,
Yes.
do you believe stuttering is a form of speaking anxiety? She says, I don't stutter when speaking alone.
That's interesting. Great question. My uncle was a stutterer, and he was almost went to the Olympics in 1936 as a high hurdler. He held records at University of California, Berkeley, and world records, but got sick, so he didn't get to go to that Olympics in Berlin. But he was a stutterer. Yet when he became a coach, and he became somebody who led and fired the gun, whatever you call them, the starter.
Right.
Whenever he did that, he was not stuttering. Isn't that amazing?
Interesting.
But yes, I have worked with stutterers. I've gone to England, and they call it stammering there. And what I believe is that it's not necessarily anxiety at all. Maybe in some cases, stuttering could be about anxiety. I think it could be some other kind of things that are the way the brain is wired or what's going on in the body. But I know exactly how to help stutterers find their voice and be comfortable. And what you do is first give complete attention, wrap them up with no pressure, because that's what they feel. I got to fill in the space. I got to fill in, the whole idea of needing to rush. If you give somebody who stammers, who stutters, space to find their words in their own time, it's beautiful. And we are also impatient, get to the point.
Right.
Yeah. Tell your story and get it over with. Next. But I think
We live in a soundbite society now.
yes, sound bites. But I think that part of the stuttering situation for people, if all of us gave them more listening, that then we would, they're just another person speaking in their own style.
Yeah. Yeah. Be yourself. Let them be themselves.
Yeah. Yes. The permission and not the judgment of somebody not doing it right.
Yeah. So what other tips do you have for people that want to, it's really, like I said, group settings and speaking in public? It's similar, but very different.
Yes, and I want to add to that, because it was my own experience of being at family situations, even just around, here we're talking about Thanksgiving coming up, Thanksgiving dinner table, just feeling like I couldn't speak up in my own extended family.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking is not just in front of groups on a stage. It could be in your own family. It could be one-to-one. I work with people who have to speak up to a boss, let's say,
Right.
or how about this? Speaking up to a loved one.
Yeah.
Yes. And one of the tips I talked about, or you asked me to think about, is listening. And people who have done my workshops often come back, especially if it's a 2-day workshop, come back and say, I've learned to listen. You know, my spouse has said, that's what I've always wanted from you. And I think that what I just said about stuttering is true for any kind of communication. I mean, speaking is, you know, we're focusing on speaking, but actually, isn't, think about it, isn't speaking coming from a listening?
Yeah. Well, for some people.
Right.
Some people
Right.
don't listen.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. But the kind of engaged kind of speaking to me feels like there's a, you know, you talked about speaking circles. There's a circle, there's a listening. I'm listening to the person who's listening to me. So I speak into their listening.
Right.
That's what I teach, is learning how to listen to people. And so they say, well, you know, if they're on their devices and they aren't listening, you can still be paying attention to them, gently welcoming them back into a co-listening with you, and then speaking into the listening. I have lots of techniques for that, but that's more learning how to listen while you speak is something that's more challenging for most people.
It's kind of like reading the room in a way.
Yes, and the whole idea is finding one person at a time. That we're going into energy now, but energetically, where you already feel like, ooh, that person has somewhat of an opening, and you want to be, it'd be like speaking one person at a time. I'm having a conversation with this one person, and then I find somebody else. Oh, there's somebody else I can speak with. So I don't speak to the room. I know we're all beginning to get back to live situations, but I don't speak to the room as a whole. I speak only to one person at a time. And that is one of the tricks that helped me get over my fear, because I already did it in my office every single day, one person at a time.
Right. I saw Bill Clinton speak years ago, right after he had left office. There was like 1,000 people in the room. And he got up there and he, like, you could see his eyes. He was kind of focusing on one person, and he was just kind of getting centered and taking a breath. And he didn't speak for like a good minute or so. And it was just like what we learned, what you teach. Connect with one person, and then all of a sudden there's another person that wants to connect with you. And it felt like he was like your best friend forever. He was talking to you in a casual, centered way.
Ooh, I like that. Casual, centered, and conversational. And I think that that's what makes people compelling as speakers, is to be able to relax into, but where are they relaxing into? And I think that they relax into the core of who they are, and that is the whole idea of just being yourself. But you have to discover the
Right.
inner depth of yourself, where your um, strength is. So I say roots and resources, so that if we get to the roots of your anxiety, then we can go deeper and find the inner resources where energetically you know how to ground. I liked your word, that center, ground, like with roots yourself, and be with one person at a time.
And this may sound touchy-feely for some people, but if you've ever worked with Doreen, you know what it feels like to get to this, what she's talking about. She's saying it, but once you work with you and experience this, it's amazing how it gets deep into your body. It's a natural thing for me now because I've learned from you over the years what to do.
And then you just soften your eyes again. Anybody who's listening, get the feel of softening your eyes, dropping down. Sometimes I count backwards from 10, and I just take a breath with each count, and then I'm there. Whew. And when I'm there, it feels like that's where confidence is for me. It, like I said earlier, it's an inside job. Confidence is deep within. And it's not something, I don't know, that's why we've got all this imposter syndrome stuff going on now, is that people are more into looking good than they are about being more true to themselves. And
Right.
I think corporations, I'm working with somebody at Google now. I think, big corporations are starting to, I mean, they have mindfulness trainings there. They have meditation programs there, positive psychology. So we really, I think big corporations are starting to say we need to keep well, especially now, getting back to, we need to keep our employees happy. And so they have to provide personal growth programs, I think, and I'd love to do more of those in
Yeah.
corporations now.
Yeah. People they're so rushed. They don't know how to communicate anymore. But when you get to this deeper level, you can communicate in a powerful way.
Yeah, because you're listening and your speaking is coming from a listening first,
Right.
not the barraging them with words and you're all about yourself. It the connection, that's the deepest part to me, is the connection that I think is what's so important in business. Authentic connection. You teach that like crazy.
Yeah. Or connecting with your family or your spouse or
Yes. Children,
right.
even
Exactly.
children. Yeah.
So how can we get in touch? I'll put your little website up here, Doreen7secrets.com.
Well, that's what I think it would be the best way, is because you can instantly get the rest of the secrets. Today I talked about stillness, grounded stillness, and the second secret is presence. And I gave you a technique, spotlighting on how to do that. But the rest of the secrets you can get instantly and see. I'd like to hear back from you how they affect your speaking. And you can get in touch with me about the 12-week coaching program I have. I have a group program and an individual 12-week program.
I highly, highly recommend it. Well, thank you, Doreen. It's been amazing as usual.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to dance with you live here, and to
Without a net.
yeah, yeah, and it's been wonderful to be part of your group all these years. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.